So welcome back. Thank you very kindly for tuning into Pan-African Television and for choosing our morning show today. I'm excited about today because today is a brand new day and is the start of a beautiful week ahead of us. I have been joined in the studios by Dr. Walanyo Mensah, who is a lecturer with Wisconsin University. And of course, our very own Hamza Suhini is also here seated. And you know, every time I want to call you doctor, I think you should have. You are so intelligent that I'm wondering why you are not. You've not done your PhD, Mr. or Comrade Heneku. Good morning to you, and good morning to all of you as well. So this morning we are touching obviously on the issue in Ethiopia, which has created a lot of tensions across that region. Ethiopia Tigray crisis, rocket hits outskirts of Eritrea, Eritrea capital. Well, trouble definitely is looming. Farmers expose Agric Minister over claims of defeating fall army worm. That's captured on the front page of the Insight newspaper. Reckless parking, articulated tracks create hotspot along Accra Kumasi Highway. And I'm sure that we are all privy to this. If you are not privy to it, that means you've not, used the Accra Kumasi stretch, because it's really very terrible and very dangerous as well. And something ought to immediately be done about it. So I'm happy that the Daily Graphic has captured it on its front page. So we will touch on this. Chaos in NBC over Rawlings's funeral. It's on the front page of the Daily Guide newspaper. The story continues on page 3. Regardless of whatever has been put on the front page of the Daily Guide newspaper, there was a massive vigil last night. Massive. Thousands of people thronged the Obra spot at Circle to observe that wonderful vigil held in honor of the founder and the former president of the Republic of Ghana, His Excellency the late Jerry John Rawlings. President proposes naming UDS after late former President Rawlings. So we will marry these two topics: Rawlings' funeral and then naming UDS after him. Trust the EC for free and fair elections. Catholic Bishops Conference urges Ghanaians. The new crusading guide. I don't trust this Catholic Bishop Conference, whatever. I don't know why now they found their voices. Personally, I don't trust them. I think they've been giving some money to shut up, so they've kept quiet. So now they've been giving another money to talk, so now they are talking. That's just funny, don't mind me. We're streaming live on our Facebook platform, which is facebook.com/Pan-African Television. We are also on YouTube, youtube.com/Pan-African Television. And the WhatsApp number is active, is 0260846539. 0260846539. You can share with us what your thoughts are. I'll be more than willing to read them here for you. Let's get into action. Kickstart the conversation with the issue in Ethiopia. Mr. Heneku, straight away, I'll start with you.
Yeah, okay. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Oh, you've not seen my meeting.
Yeah, you're white.
Yeah, it's an office setting. I'm here, I'm the boss. Yeah. When we step down, Mr. Heneku is the boss.
Your white away is very nice. My greetings to the cherished viewers of Pan-African Television. And a special greeting goes to my sister in Suhum.
Hey, Suhum.
Yes.
I know Suhum very well.
Call Emma, Ejebia, and the family there. Thank you. Yes, with regards to the Ethiopia Tigray crisis, that is indeed a tragedy. It's a tragedy that Ethiopia, the bastion of African independence through the millennium, the seat of African unity, should be in such a crisis over the recent past that they are unable to solve their nationality problems. Whether in the south, along the Somali border, with the Somalis who are some of the Somalis who are part of the Ethiopian nation, or with other myriad of nations or nationalities within the Ethiopian nation, they are unable to find accommodation between them. And it's a tragedy that the federal government has sent in troops to the Tigrayan province in order to put down what ordinarily we should have had a discussion about. What was the whole problem? The whole problem was that there's a new power in Addis Ababa who wants to accumulate and centralize power in Addis Ababa, contrary to the settlement which was reached, where the various provinces were given a high degree of autonomy. Mind you, the Tigray people fought vehemently against both the emperor, Haile Selassie, and also against the DEG, the military junta who succeeded Haile Selassie. And they led Ethiopia into a new dispensation where the late Prime Minister of Ethiopia was from that province and from that guerrilla group. And they were given federal status. So the problem of elections, which was postponed allegedly due to COVID by the central government, and which was not agreed to by the Tigrayans, the Tigrayan People's Liberation Front, and who held their own elections, shouldn't have triggered this kind of armed conflict, where which is now threatening to go across the borders, because the Tigrayans have fired on the Asmara, the capital of Eritrea. You know, Eritrea once upon a time was also part of Ethiopia. Yeah. And they fought a war which they won and seceded. And so by drawing in Eritrea, because Eritrea is supposed to be supporting the federal government, and now with refugees streaming into Sudan, you realize that it is the internationalization of the conflict. And we have to be very careful. There are other outside powers who are interested in destabilizing Ethiopia. And one of such powers is Egypt. Why Egypt? Because of the massive dam which is being built on the Blue Nile in Ethiopia, and which is likely to restrict the amount of, or the volume of water which flows into Egypt. You know, Egypt is the Nile. Without the Nile, Egypt won't exist. It will just be one big desert area. And so there has been threats between Egypt and against Ethiopia on the construction of that dam. With this problem in Tigray, I can bet you outside forces would interfere. It will internationalize the whole thing, and the losers are going to be the ordinary people, the ordinary Africans who are minding their own business, who are not being well catered for by the political elite, but are minding their own business, now have to carry their mats and mattresses and cross as refugees.
What should be the way forward?
The way forward is that I'm surprised that the AU has not intervened by now.
But the AU itself is in...
The AU is what? The AU is in Addis Ababa. By now they should have intervened.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there are other regional bodies in Central and East Africa, which groups Egypt, Eritrea, Ethiopia, and others. They should be interested, because whether Sudan likes it or not, it is getting refugees.
Absolutely.
Whether Eritrea likes it or not, its airports are being bombed.
Yeah.
You understand? So it concerns them. So it is very, very important that they get involved so that they can resolve this crisis.
All right. So, Mr. Eneko there, we're still talking Ethiopia and what is happening in Tigray. And, you know, the altercation between the government of Ethiopia and the Tigray Liberation People's Front or something like that. Let me now come to you, Hamza, on this subject matter, please.
Good morning to my colleague panelists, and of course to you and your production team. And most importantly, good morning to our cherished viewers out there. I think that they are loyal to this station, and we pray and hope that in time we will be able to partner you, those running this place, to justify their confidence and loyalty to this station. Kwame, with regards to the Ethiopian issue, I think that our senior comrade has laid bare some of the thorny issues that probably brought us to this critical moment in history. And for me, it is not just limited to Ethiopia. It also speaks volumes when it comes to our adoption of democracy in various parts of Africa and how we operationalize it as far as democratic dispensation is concerned. Because if you look at his rise to power, you can say arguably that it was more or less a national call to duty, where a section of the Ethiopian people, various ethnic groups, came together as a collective to ensure that they inject some level of sanity and openness in terms of democracy to the Ethiopian people. That was what brought Dr. Abiy to power in the first place.
Absolutely, yeah.
The reality, however, is that upon assumption of office, I think that he appreciated that there was the need for him to manage the expectations of the people, but in doing so, he fell short of one basic principle of comradeship and togetherness, irrespective of where people stood when the clarion call came for you to lead the country. And one surprising thing is that the Tigray, region, is it right? Tigray region, that played an instrumental role in bringing him to power.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, in less than 2 years, it appears that seemed to be one major sector that he seemed to be having challenges with. So it also speaks volumes about his inability as a leader to carry even his own compatriots along, even those who saw reason in the need for him to lead the country. So that failure must be a cause of worry or a source of worry to any person who desires the best for Ethiopia. Because one would have expected that he would have been able to carry those who helped him to get there along, and most importantly, lead those who even did not see the need for him to come on board in the first place. But here is the case, he has challenges carrying along those who were even with him from the onset. What is the guarantee that he has what it takes to lead the entire Ethiopia towards the liberation they fought for together, by uniting the country and ensuring that Ethiopia is repositioned once again to provide that leadership role to Africa? And so these are the questions we need to be asking. And that is where I think that he seemed to be falling short. Again, we have gone through, and we are still going through, the unfortunate charade of, if you like, COVID-19, the world all over. I struggle to understand why COVID-19 had to be used as an excuse to postpone elections in Ethiopia. It simply doesn't make sense. And so it more or less feeds into the fear of most of his opponents that he knew that he was becoming so unpopular in a matter of just 2 years that he needed time to avoid elections and probably buy time to ensure that he gets his acts right to win power again. But you see, the reality is that whatever happens in Ethiopia, like our senior Kwame said, is not limited to Ethiopia. Today, we are hearing that the attacks that happened had to do with an international airport. It affected many other nationals probably who went in there to do businesses. So it clearly suggests that whatever instability that is created in Ethiopia is not going to remain in Ethiopia. And for me, when we are seeking political power, the objective largely should be to make the lives of the people better. And as a result of this conflict, we are reading that over 3 million people have been displaced. Before the coming into office of Dr. Abiy, were these people displaced? So how does he feel now as president that under him over 3 million Ethiopians have no homes to sleep? It simply means that the style of leadership is a bit problematic. If you cannot contribute significantly to solving problems in Ethiopia, at least should not expect him to further worsen the existing challenges that they have in the country. And that is why I said that it may be happening in Ethiopia, but if we all want to be honest with ourselves, we know that there is a possibility of something like that happening, even in our country, Ghana, Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire, and the likes. We are still not out of the woods. Events like this must serve as useful reminders to political office holders in this country and other parts of Africa that we are still going through a volatile democratic transition process and we are not masters of the game. Indeed, what is happening even in the United States of America should prompt us that irrespective of how perfect we think our democratic systems in Ghana are, there is the need for us to ensure or to always be reminded that it is still work in progress. And that is why those of us who are sympathetic and in fact members of the National Democratic Congress have continued to sound that alarm and have raised serious concerns about both the conduct of the Electoral Commission of this country and that of the Nanado-led government. Because, Kwame, Ethiopia is not far. What is happening in Ethiopia has the tendency of happening in Ghana. So in as much as we sit around the table to comment about Ethiopia and to raise all the red flags, there's the need for us to look within and see what we can do as a republic that is in Ghana to ensure that we don't go on that tangent. And that is why every well-meaning Ghanaian with an interest of progress must ensure that we hold our institutions responsible and accountable, especially now that we are going into an election that we've never experienced before in our nation's history, where a sitting president is contesting against a former president. And so the stakes are bound to be high. The stakes are bound to be high. And that is the reason why we must ensure that those mandated by law to deliver free and fair elections and those mandated by law to ensure peace and stability before, during, and after the elections are all seen to be acting in accordance with those laws. And we must not do, we must abhor any attempt to accommodate or to simply explain away inefficiencies or failures on the part of these institutions. And so, Kwame, yes, it is about Ethiopia. It could be about Ghana tomorrow, God forbid. So we all must do everything in our power to ensure that in our respective countries, be it Nigeria, be it Ghana, we allow and support the institutions of state to work. All right. That is one way we can move away from this unfortunate.
I'll grant you the latitude of time to express yourself quite into detail when we get to the question of the Bishop Conference, you know, saying that we should trust the Electoral Commission in preparation for the 2020 election. So we'll get into all of that. But let me bring in Dr. Olanyo as well, please.
Thank you very much, and good morning to fellow Africans. You realize that the crisis in Ethiopia is deeply regrettable, and it has dire consequences on the entire continent of Africa. Now, you realize that Ethiopia becomes the administrative capital of Africa for some years now, and it has become a cosmopolitan country. And for that matter, you believe that it becomes generally the root of Africans. So looking at where we have come as a continent as far as democracy is concerned, and what is happening now in Ethiopia has dire consequences on our electoral fortunes as a continent. We believe that when leaders try to put their interest above national interest, these are the results of such actions and inactions. For some time now, when we follow the performance of their economy, you realize that the economic performances are in the reverse gear, And I think that is giving cause for concern. And if care is not taken, when you look at the Middle East and that of the Central Africa, I think their performances as far as managing of the economy is, even though everybody is trying to use the COVID-19 as a care of, but then we are not performing well at all. Even coming to the effect of the African Continental Free Trade Area, most of these countries seems not to be fully prepared, and so their citizens are always agitating and against the leaders. So I think that there is the need for us to take a second look at the decisions, revisit the decisions that we take in the past, and if care is not taken, it's really going to push the interests of the people in a way that they will begin to take the law into their own hands. I don't think as a continent, with the successes that we chopped so far, this is where we should be landing ourselves. And as we said, we are living in a global village, and so from Ethiopia to Ghana is not far. We believe that our leaders will equally be learning some lessons from this and put proper structures in place, because most of our institutions are not working. Our structures are not working, so everybody get up and whatever they feel like doing, that is what we see them doing. So it's regrettably, and we believe that they should be able to put the necessary structures in place, and the African Union, even though they are not part of ECOWAS, as a bloc, we can equally profess some solutions to this whole dilemma.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much. 0260846539 is the WhatsApp number. Kindly share with us what your thoughts are. We will read them out here for you. Let's come back to our dear country, Ghana. Bring all of the relevant issues to the fore and discuss them appropriately. One of the issues that I want us to touch on, maybe perhaps briefly, before we look at this farmers issue, has to do with the reckless parking of articulated trucks along the Accra-Kumasi highway, specifically the Nkoko junction. I have had personal experiences on that stretch. It's rather very dangerous, very, very dangerous. And something ought to be done with immediacy about this particular issue. Hamza, let me start with you.
I think that we have had our own share of experiences with this particular menace since 2015-2016, when we had the Ministry of Roads and Highways. We had what we called field trips, where from time to time we go out there to assess ongoing construction works. And you see, this was not only limited to works or roads done already. The challenge could also be felt on even ongoing construction roads in the country. And you would agree with me that mostly, even when contractors are outside constructing, those roads become difficult to use. They are a bit not that motorable. And on top of that, you have these long vehicles parking by the roadside, either to put off, unload goods, or of course sometimes load goods and move on. But you see, the problem has to do with regulation, and that's what I've always said. Until we are able to confront it head on and get enforcement officers, either from the Ghana Police Service, Ghana Immigration Service, or whatever, or even Driver and Vehicle Licensing Authority, DVLE, partnering with other relevant bodies in the road sector, say Ministry of Roads and Highways, Ministry of Transport, and what do we call it? National Road Safety Commission in particular, to ensure that we tackle this issue head on. And Kwame, there's the problem with politics is that when you allow that freedom of space to operate, it has the tendency of corrupting your institutions that are actually meant to deliver services to the people.
That's a fact.
And so sometimes there is a tendency where even the law enforcement agencies do their work as it should be done, And operators of this vehicle, because of their political connections, call people in offices, and they are left off the hook. So you realize that what would have deterred him or her from doing same in the near future would have been taken away by political interference in the manner in which we sometimes do it in this country. So it is not just limited to Accra. Even in northern parts of Ghana, the country, if you go to Tamale, for instance, that issue still persists. The roads, apart from being narrow, long vehicles coming in all the way from neighboring Burkina and park. You know, you are familiar with the airport road.
Yeah.
Sometimes they veer off and park, either spoiled on the road or just for convenience. They park to the drivers park to do something.
They just park.
And the roads are all narrow in nature. That is the northern part of Ghana, not even Greater Accra. And so you see, we need to have these enforcement mechanisms. Even if it is spoiled on the road, we must have a reliable system that can quickly take it away from the roads to at least to avoid accidents on our roads.
Yeah.
Because people run into some of these vehicles, it leads to serious deaths on the roads. And so there's the need for us to get our systems to work. And that is what I've always said. We can sit around this table and lament from time to time about the conduct of these operators. These are human beings. What we need to do is to get our state institutions to ensure that there's that level of discipline on the roads. Until that is done, trust me, even next year or 2 or 3, we'll come back around the same table and we are lamenting over the same issue. And it appears that in this country, we enjoy the attitude of getting to lament over failures of state on daily basis. Because for some of us, probably that is our source of living. And that is quite disgusting, Kwame, to say the least. You see, nations progress because of the commitment political office holders and even the civil service dedicate because of their commitment to ensuring that the right thing is done, irrespective of the relationship that we have with each other. But if we allow our relationships to come in and allow our political connections to come in, then trust me, this nation is not going to progress in any meaningful way. So there's no solution to this issue except for us to get our...
That's why our development has stagnated, because
yes,
all the things that you're talking about are very pervasive.
They are pervasive in all sectors. It's not just in the rural sector. They are pervasive in all sectors of this country. And you see, that is why there's the need for us to change our psyche as a people. I have always said that. And you see, I have worked with people. When you come to me and you are engaged in blatant disregard for the law, and you violated the law willingly, even sometimes without knowing, the best thing to do is to sit the person down, advise the person, let him appreciate that some of these laid down procedures and laws are meant to even protect him or her and the family. Get them through that education. And in cases where the law has to do its work, you allow the law to do its work. Your duty as a public office holder is to simply explain to him to appreciate and to be ready for the law to work. Probably the person may walk away thinking that this gentleman has not been of help to me. But in your conscience, in good conscience, you know that there couldn't have been any other better help to offer than to let him appreciate the effects of his action on our collective growth or progress as a country. And so I think that political office holders must begin to exhibit that level of sincerity. They must begin to manifest that courage in our bid to uphold and defend the laws of this country. Trust me, when accidents happen on the roads, you may think that you are secured. You are living in a walled-up community. You will not drive recklessly. But someone out of that reckless endeavor can drive into your car or drive into a parked vehicle and within the spur of a moment, before you realize, you are also in there.
Absolutely.
So that is the more reason why we must approach it with the seriousness it deserves. You see, and Kwame, trust me, no amount of jojo or discussion on this program has what it takes to solve the problem. What I would suggest is that you those in the media, and that's why you are the fourth estate of the realm, you those in the media, this is the time for you to take it on. If the politicians are reluctant, it must be possible for media men, for journalists in this country, to make it a crusade, go on the roads, take video clips of these vehicles, make sure that it is published, identify, liaise with the DVLA, identify the owners in whose names these vehicles are registered, and run it 24/7 on your networks to ensure accountability and follow up. Those who call to get them off the hook will be reluctant to do so because they know if they interfere, Pan-African TV has what it takes to expose them and put them out there as those who are actually engaged in making phone calls to get those breaking the laws to go scot-free.
In as much as I agree with you, and I think that you eloquently made the point about political interference. And that incessant political interference in all of these operations is what has brought us this far. So that it becomes practically impossible for enforcers of the law to fully enforce the law, to ensure that people who offend the law, like you stated, deliberately or otherwise, are brought to book. Because on our roads, for instance, you see people driving anyhow, and anybody nowadays, anybody who has the money to buy V8 will just buy V8 and buy some sirens and put it in front of it, and that's it. They are, they are members of parliament.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, and they just
or their parties are in power.
Absolutely. So that enforcement of the law, it's very crucial, and also the fact that we try to politicize any and everything. And I do recall this is unrelated, but it's also very incidental to this conversation, where I think a district chief executive or so in the Koforidua enclave sought to clear the road of people who sell on the pavement, you know, in Koforidua. That gentleman was asked to stop because it had political consequences. That the people said they were going to vote against the MPP because of what the MCE was doing. Which action would have, you know, rid the streets of all of these people who were selling on the streets, and perhaps even expanded the place for some civil lack of tranquility and things like that to prevail on the streets. But that didn't happen because of, like I intimated before, the political involvement. How do we address this? And I do recall also, I don't know, I think during your administration, the NDC's administration, Agboshi, I don't know the market very well, but Agboshi, at the time, they were beating people to get them off the streets.
Yes.
Because those were, you know, dangers that we needed to address with immediacy. What has happened? I do also recall that I think quite recently, City FM, in collaboration with the DVLA, MTTU and MTTD decided to engage themselves to some of these things that you're talking about. What has become of it? You know, so I don't know how we can deal with some of these issues, really. And it's not just about rhetorics. How do we practically deal with these things?
And you see, Kwame,
they get very frustrated. Mr. Aneku wants to make a quick intervention. I'll come back to you, Hamza, with the grace of respect.
Well,
quick intervention, I'll come back.
Law enforcement is good. But you enforce the law when you have provided reason for the law to work. The truth of the matter, yes, for the truth of the matter is that have you provided parking places for the vehicle? You have not. Have you provided path, urinals, etc., for people to go and urinate? You have not. And you want to say that you want to enforce law. What law? What law do you want to enforce?
Okay.
What if you want to enforce the law? When there's an accident, do we go for the designer of the road to see whether he designed it properly? Do we go to highways for the professionals who, supervise the construction of the road, whether it was properly done? Are there road signs properly there? Are there layabouts or car parks over there? Has it been done? If these things are done and people willfully fail to obey it, then you can talk about enforcing the law. You don't just get up. The law does not hang in the air. The law is real. I mean, it affects human beings. It is the relations between people and the state, or people and institutions. Our institutions are not working, and people are not calling them up. And because our institutions, whether it's the Electoral Commission, whether it's DVLA, whether it's roads, whatever, the things they are supposed to do, they are not doing it. And when the consequences of it come, then they are quick to blame the people. Oh, it is the people's fault. The people must be educated. They educated on what? Have you provided them with the right environment for them to work? Have you provided the right systems? Have you provided the right infrastructure? So it is very important. Elsewhere, you are constructing a route. There are protocols of what you are supposed to do. The safety signs you are supposed to place there, etc., etc. In this country, somebody is putting up a building and you see half of the road they have taped sand on. Are there institutions to work on that? There are. Do they work on it? No, they don't. What's the assembly doing? Along the Accra Kumasi road, there are assemblies on each stretch of the road. What is their function? The DCE and the planning officer and the engineers and all those bureaucrats over there, they are collecting their monthly pay. To do what? To ensure that the right things are put in place so that people do not unnecessarily get into accidents.
Okay, I'll come back to you for your substantive submission, but this was just taking a bite from. But Hamza, with the greatest of respect to you, Mr. Heneko has made some very profound statements. But in my opinion, I still feel that all of these things has its extraordinary within the bigger context of enforcement of the law and being deliberate about it. So how do we sanitize the system such that all the things that Mr. Heneko has spoken about will take effect without even anybody interfering? Like the system naturally will take
Kwame, but that was why I told you that. You see, I agree that sometimes or most of the time the challenge has to do with enforcement. And we have spoken already extensively about what political interference does when it comes to any meaningful attempt at ensuring enforcement of the law. And you asked, how do we go about it? And I said, look, if you observe this country, it appears one of the things that office holders dread or hate with passion is exposure of their weaknesses and lapses. That is why I feel that the media has a role to play in this agenda to get our laws to be enforced. And trust me, if Pan-African TV and other sister stations come together and try to make it a point to ensure that these vehicles, when parked wrongfully on the road, will be put out there, any attempt at interfering by any political office holder at getting in trying to get them out of the hook, Pan-Africa does the same by exposing that office holder. Trust me, the next day, another person will be reluctant. If anybody walks up to a minister and a member of parliament, a departmental head, and makes a plea that my vehicle has been towed away by the Ghana Police Service and I need your intervention, the office holder will be quick to prompt the person that, look, I won't be willing to do that, and they will put me on Pan-African TV as someone interfering with the processes in terms of law enforcement. So that is one effective way we can go about it. We have seen. But how other sister stations?
Is it not scary that you have an institution where you cannot even have a microcosm of people that you can trust to, without some level of force, continue to follow the process and follow it?
See, there are genuinely some political office holders who will do anything to enforce the law. But most of the time, there are those who go on the streets and hear that this person doesn't help at all. He doesn't help at all because people have gone to them with questionable requests, and engaging in those questionable requests and attempting to find solution will demand that such a person abuses the law or violates the laws of the land. And so if the person is reluctant to do so and explains his unwillingness to do so, you see that most of the time politicians or party activists will be on the streets lamenting these lambasting these office holders and telling everybody how they are unwilling when you have a problem and go to them. And unfortunately, most of us will join in the condemnation. So it is not accurate to say that all political office holders are like that. And you see, quickly, coming back to the concerns being raised by our senior.
No, I was looking to the institutions as opposed to the individuals who
sometimes it's difficult for you to create that dichotomy. But because even if an institution is not performing, and you get the head who is ready to work, it can trickle down.
Like the Auditor General when
absolutely. It can trickle down. So there is not. Sometimes human beings can transform institutions in that manner. But you see, quickly on what our senior comrade said, Kwame, I associate with some of the concerns being raised. This is not to absolve our state institutions in terms of their commitment to enforcing the law or carrying out their legally mandated functions. They equally have their challenges and problems. But sometimes we must resist the temptation to explain away such blatant violations of the law by simply making references to institutional weaknesses. Again, it will not be entirely accurate to say that provisions have not been made in terms of parking laws for these vehicles. As I sit here, when we had that challenge in the northern region, there were attempts by the government then, liaised with the Department of Urban Roads, and it led to a diversion. So when they are coming from Tamale Airport, from Tamale Airport, now they don't go through town, they go through what we call what's the name? The Mariam Hotel side of town. So they just initiate and they don't go drive through the town center of Tamale.
Around the airport area.
So they just take a turn, I think around the Mariam Hotel Road, go all the way to the stadium side, then out Tamale, without any major interference in terms of business activities in town. And quite apart from that, they are actually designated parking lots in Tamale. And not just in Tamale, even in Greater Accra. You see, we don't build parking lots for the fun of it. They are designated parking lots for vehicles to go and park.
But your parking lots become bus stops and
it is because of the enforcement. So you cannot say, it is not accurate to say that how do you enforce the law when you have no parking place for them? The parking place is there. So we just need to enforce the law.
May I know in Accra where the parking places are?
Oh, even if you go towards the STC yard, down there, behind STC.
Behind STC, it is parking lot for who?
It's by the state. It's owned by the state.
No, it's for whom?
I don't know.
Look,
it's for long vehicles.
Listen, hold on.
I'll get you to.
You see, I have tried as much as possible to depoliticize this issue, and not to say that this parking lot was done by this. You see, they are hard-working engineers at the Ministry of Roads and Highways. There is no road construction that will go on in this country without first of all you going to have an assessment of that road network. Anybody who needs to play a role will play a role. If in the construction they notice that this caliber of vehicles are going to use it, there's a provision for parking lots along those stretches, just as we have bus terminals. So these are things we need to understand. You don't just get up and you construct a road.
Okay, step down for me.
So, Mr. Comrade, senior comrade, it is not accurate to say that we don't have parking lots. We may not have enough. If you call for the introduction of more parking lots for these vehicles, fair enough. But definitely provisions are being made in that regard. What we need to do is to ensure that our enforcement agencies enforce the law. And these people on the streets who drive these vehicles should not hide under that cloak that we don't have enough parking lots to continue to cause mayhem on our streets. And these are the things we need to do.
Okay.
In the first place, it is not correct to say that when we talk about these things, it is being politicized or people are politicizing it.
Okay.
Everything that affects the human beings and affects society is political. Unless you can define political to be the absence of human beings from it, and talk about the law hanging in the air. You understand? The law does not hang in the air. The law is for human beings to be operated by human beings and to be operated for human beings.
Okay.
We all are in this country. You talked about Nkoko.
Absolutely.
We know about Achimota.
Yes.
Where are the parking lots for broken down vehicles, for people, long haulage vehicles who ply from here to Burkina Faso and back? Because they are human drivers.
Please,
let me speak. I allowed you to have a long Fidel speech. So let me also speak.
Okay.
You understand? These long haulage trucks which coming from Burkina Faso and everything, the drivers are human beings. They get tired. They ought to have a place to sleep. They have to have a place to change. You understand? You don't have any of these things. Then I'm told that there's some place behind the state transport yard. Is a state transport yard on the Accra-Kumasi road? It is not, certainly not on the Accra-Kumasi road. It's not, certainly not in Achimota. It's certainly not even in Tema, where trucks with long haulage trucks which are supposed to go to the harbour do not find parking spaces in the harbour and have to park by the sides while they wait for their turn to go and load and unload. Let's be very frank. Our institutions of state and our state itself has atrophied. It is not working. That's why we need to rebuild this country, and that's why the CPP is promising to rebuild this country. You understand? By restoring trust in government. There are many things the state has been entrusted to do. Institutions of state have been empowered and mandated to do. They are resourced to do it. And they don't do it. And when they don't do it, the consequences of their failure is conveniently blamed on the citizenry. You talked about Abu Blush. Yes, it was overcrowded. Why is it overcrowded? Because many people have gone into the into trading and marketing, and are marketing goods there. Have you built additional markets to accommodate them?
They actually were giving markets to go. They
Where?
to go.
They were not. You wait at Agbogboshi market, Kokomba market, SOS. You wait till the citizenry themselves create their own market, and becomes a problem. Look, when I was working with my previous work, I had calls to go and pave Tuesday market, to pave Owusu market. Why? Because when it rains and you see the conditions in which women trade in, it is appalling. And when they trade in those kind of muddy conditions, the assembly will go to them to go and tax them. And you expect them to be happy. The infrastructure is crumbling. Then you go there and go and collect money. You talked about Koforidua. When the guy was removing the people, did he have a place to go and place them there? Did they make provision for that? We never talk about it. All that we are talking about always is that we have become some semi-gods or demigods who look down upon the people, always blame the people as being stupid, and so they don't know safety, they don't know hygiene, they don't know the right things to do, and we must educate them and we must enforce the law. We can't create a fascist state in this country. You only enforce the law when you have provided adequate provision and infrastructure for people to be able to work in properly. And after you have done that, when they refuse to do it, then you enforce the law. Yeah.
But I want to agree and disagree with you on several fronts.
Yeah, of course. You are at liberty to.
I can appreciate the argument about the fact that we must make sure we make provisions for people that we want to get off the street. That's also that's factual, right?
That's true.
But there are instances where we make provisions for people, which people have still found themselves on the streets.
Yeah.
And in that instance, would you say that is our inability to provide those facilities for the people, that is why they are on the streets, or it is just simply because we have failed to enforce the law as a result of, the political involvement that these people may have with whichever administration that is in power.
Kwame,
Let's be also realistic about
Kwame, I agree with you. If you provide the right environment and people do not,
I can give you an example.
Yes.
I don't know who started this, but I've seen some dustbins scattered across the country, and you go there, and people still do not find it necessary to put it. Yes. Why?
Why? Because people have become used to throwing their dustbin anyhow, and there where dustbins are, where urinals are, and people break the law, or where there are parking lots and people do not obey it, of course the law must take its course. And when the law takes its course, it must go the full hog. When I said it must go the full hog, it means the justice system itself shouldn't truncate it anyhow, either by seeing the judge, either by seeing the prosecutor, or anything. You see, when we talk of systems, we don't talk only of brick and mortar. Our institutions of state are not necessarily brick and mortar. The public service is not brick and mortar. You understand? You see, when you talk of political interference and reduce it to the fact that I'm a political appointee and so I interfere, I'm saying that is not enough. Because if the systems, if the rules of engagement within the bureaucracy is working, no minister can come and tell you to do something differently and it will be done. No. Okay. Because if you don't do it, what can he do to you? Will he sack you? If the rules of engagement does not allow him to be able to sack you, you refuse to do it.
That's a bigger conversation we can have. My conversation is really very that infantile, you know, to the extent that, and I'm coming to you, Dr. Walanya, to the extent that it has become practically impossible to address the very basic things in this country is what we are talking about. To the extent that if an MC decides to clear people off the streets of Koforidua, and his actions will be stopped as a result of some political benefits or otherwise that they may, you know, a political party may get, then there's a problem. To the extent that we have markets, because there's a market there, but the people will still come to the streets and sell on the pavement. When you are driving to the law school, when you are driving to the law school, senior, it is horrendous, and it's even very dangerous for them because any car can simply just run. Yeah, you know, and it has become a phenomenon. And we are okay with it. There are people who sell on the streets of Accra, and they sell dog chase. I'm saying dog chase. They sell knives, jackknives on the streets of Accra. We are okay. Everybody's happy. You remember there was an incident where a tipper truck or so failed its brakes. The brakes failed, and then it ran some people at Kaswa. Is it Kaswa or the central region there about somewhere? And people died because they are selling on the streets of.
Similar thing happened at Ashama.
Yes, and as for Ashama market, is regrettable. Ashama market. I used to live in Tema, and whenever my dad, you know, sent me to Ashama, I refused because driving from Tema to Ashama will take you about 4 hours. Why? Because of human traffic. Why? Because people are selling on the streets. So how do you deal with this? And it's a problem. It's a problem. The reason why we are here, and I largely share in the position taken by Hamza, and this one Mr. Edeku should forgive me, but our inability to punish people
is a problem.
To punish people is a problem.
The prisons are overcrowded.
I love that.
You know, in Rwanda, because the prisons are crowded, all these people that are arrested for these small crimes are made to weed and paint the streets of Rwanda. So if you offend the law and you are made to weed, clear the gutters, paint the streets of Accra, you will learn sense. I'm not a Scottish, you will learn sense. And if you sweep the markets, the very market that you will learn sense. Doc, don't you think so?
Yes, exactly. I think we need some form of social engineering our mindsets
our mindset there is
are not working well. And
when the police arrest you, no, say Charlie, 5 guys.
Yes.
Oh, of course. No, so the giver and the taker, we all give the take. So as
my brother Raleigh said, in fact, the indiscipline, the system is just too much, and we can't only blame leaders. It's like we citizens too, we are not ready for change. You realize that people are building under high tension posts. People are hawking on the streets. People are trading on the pavements, walkways. And in fact, when you look at all this indiscipline, but it takes a lot of political will to enforce. But in enforcing, there should be an alternative policy and programs. So if there are no alternative policies or solutions, at the end of the day, the people come back. And you know, Africa, our main biggest policy is about winning elections.
Oh,
so if tension is mounts on a politician, he tries to reduce that tension by trying to please the people. If not, you face the wrath of the people. People are dumping refuse in gutters. People are building on waterways. These are all
this waterway you want
open defecation
in my area,
polluting water bodies. You understand?
In my area, Mr. Eneku, is crazy when it rains, and clearly you can see that a mansion is on a waterway. Like clearly you can see it, and the guy has built. And you know what they do is that they fill their side of the land, so they raise the land, and then when it rains, they are okay. But the water has to still find a way. So it finds a path, it creates its own path into other people's homes.
What are the people who are able to
that is the thing.
The people who are able to build the mansions are the elite in society. He was talking about the newspapers.
I'll come to you.
He was talking about the newspapers exposing who owns these newspapers and the media. They are the same people who go and break the law.
That one is true.
It's the same people who make sure that the system does not work, so that it will work to their benefit. It is the same people who don't provide the infrastructure. It's the same. Today I was watching on television a place in is it Techiman or Kintampo, and they were blaming recent flooding for the past 6 years for the types of gutters which was created. I created those gutters.
No.
Was it the people who created the gutters?
No.
Or it was the bureaucracy?
Yeah.
It was the political system. So you see, it goes hand in hand. You don't just enforce for enforcement's sake. You enforce that which has been provided for and which is not being respected.
Mr. Eneku, must you, for instance, throw your rubbish in a gutter? So there are some things that are very basic.
I have vehicles, these big refuse trucks come to our square to take our refuse. And so we have this refuse bins where we park. When they come, we go, we are able to pay. If I don't do that, so the infrastructure has been provided for me about how to dispose of my household refuse. I have been taught that when I make refuse, when I'm in a vehicle, I should put it in a rubber
and leave
it in a vehicle. When I get home, I take it.
Yeah.
So these two things have been put in place. When I deliberately or blatantly refuse to accept it, then I should be punished.
I agree.
Okay. Hamza, briefly, and I'll come to you to conclude.
You see, Kwame, to a very large extent, there's the need for us to appreciate that, yes, there's the need for you to have alternate infrastructure in terms of if you are moving people off the streets, there must be a place to move them. But then again, Comrade Hineku, I agree with you that if you take the Accra Kumasi Highway, you are likely not to find parking places for long vehicles. But you see, there are some ethics, even in driving, that these drivers fail to adhere to. Even if you don't have a parking lot, on that stretch, and you are going to veer off and park by the road, and either pee, go to toilet, bath, or whatsoever, you have your triangle. Make sure that it is placed according to the laws of placing triangles, so that any oncoming vehicle knows that as I approach here, there's a vehicle parked ahead, and will check the speed. Even do you need government again to come to your level and provide a triangle for you? And most of them, you get them and ask them why they have not placed the triangle. They tell you that they have forgotten. It's not that they don't have it, they have it. So it has to do with the attitude of some of these drivers. And that's why I'm saying that there is a need for us to look at the enforcement of the law from that perspective. But yes, the state can actually even make revenue by creating parking lots for these long vehicles from Tamale. Yes, from Tamale.
Towns and villages along.
Yes, from Tamale all the way to Greater Accra. That can be done. That can be another source of revenue for state. But in the meantime, that we may not have enough of them. When you don't have enough and you are supposed to park, make use of your triangle.
Yeah.
So that any oncoming vehicle knows that this is the situation on the road.
Yeah, and
even if you are broken down, make use of the triangle.
But you know the most dangerous ones, the smoking ones, without tail light.
Yes.
I nearly ran into
no, so
2011.
So if I say that it has to do with enforcement, so a police officer will get him, and at the end of the day, what will solve the problem is probably 100 Ghana or 200 Ghana. And they can
why? 5 Ghana, 10 Ghana, is there 100 Ghana?
No, I know they charge the long vehicles a lot.
Oh, okay.
I'm being honest with you.
Okay,
I know they do. They charge them a lot.
Okay.
So you see, these are the issues.
So it means there are institutional failures.
Yes, that's why I said enforcement.
And I'm telling you that infrastructure is not only brick and mortar.
No, I agree. That's why I told you that.
Also, institutions.
That's why I told you that I agree with you.
Our public.
And I told Kwame from the onset that there is a need for the likes of Kwame to, even where they are institutional failures, to expose those institutions.
Let's be fair.
So that we can all be able to handle. We can all handle the issues as they arise.
Let's be fair to Mr. Walanyo. Doc, continue for us and help us. Or they've spoken your mind, eh?
Yes, almost everything that we are discussing, I think, is the right direction.
Okay.
So we are talking about indiscipline, and it's gradually like the citizens have a standard, so they are just looking for a politician who will come and okay that standard for them.
That's a deep statement.
So at the end of the day, we have a very bad standard in the country, and they just want a politician who will come and make that bad standard
institutionalize the bad standard.
So once you want to say no, this is the way
you become their enemy.
Yes, you become an enemy.
Yeah.
And they'll punish you. So at the end of the day, when you even look at what must be done, there are no fairness in our law system.
You know why I sometimes I get worried about this is because I remember Salifah Mankwa and what he did.
Yes.
So how come he was able to do that? Was it a circle?
Yes.
Largely.
Yes.
Where even when I moved from Asante Mampong and I came to live in Accra at the time when it was still the runabout, you could never walk through that. Years after Salifah Mankwa had left the scene, you could not walk in that circle. You couldn't. Why?
But you are not supposed to.
No, I get it. Oh, but come on. It got to a point where now
People just rush over it and all that stuff. So
you understand?
Yes.
that attitude.
So why? Why is it that it was able to work under Salifah Mankwa, but it's not able to work now? If you now drove around, and sometimes when I drive around, I drive through the circle, Dubai, and I see all of these kiosks. And Mr. Edeko also made a point when he said that we have also allowed this thing to go on. We allow the system to open the way it is. And when it becomes institutionalized, then we now want to enforce the law. It's not possible.
Yes.
So, you know, the kiosks that are there, you find people selling there, and they have people selling watches and everything there. And I'm thinking this could have been, the land could have been used to put up some nice, stories. How do they even call it? Skyscrapers or whatever they call it.
Yeah. So, you see,
it's a problem, my guy.
Very problematic, and it's not that leaders don't know the.
Oh, they know. They don't just implicate politics,
but they don't want to implicate
because they don't have the latitude of time.
Just something
the latitude of time to stay
under a minute or two. Probably most of them. Okay, probably most of them are watching us as we engage in this discussion. Either those engaged in breaking the law, those engaged in breaking the law on the streets, or those who are supposed to enforce it are unable to do so. Probably they are watching us. But especially to those who are on the grounds and probably seen as more or less violating the law, they should not think that those of us on this panel, in one way or the other, have not had our share of experiences when it comes to that. And that we are so perfect when it comes to playing by the rules. That is not the communication today. Sometimes you need to apply the brakes and question yourself that what I'm doing, is it the best? I'll give you a personal example. During my Legon days, there were times, there are washrooms, toiletries and everything that you can go and use. Whichever hall you found yourself. I don't need to talk about sometimes the nasty nature that you are likely to find these facilities. But one way or the other, exactly, one way or the other, these things were provided. And so, because of the perception I had, there were days I'll just ignore it. In fact, most of the time. Then find my way into the bushes just to ease myself and come back.
Because you couldn't stand it.
Because I couldn't stand it. And one day on such journey, I then told myself, what the heck is happening? It is not that the facility is not there. You just feel that it is not kept in a condition for you to use it.
Absolutely.
You understand? And yet, when you are engaging in by going into the bush,
it's risky.
It's risky. Apart from being risky, you are clearly exposing others to danger because of health implications.
Yeah.
So then I decided that, look, I'm not going to do that again. And I would find a way of making do with what was available to me. So you see the experiences. In one way or the other, I thought that I was taking care of myself. But some way, somehow, on reflection, I realized that I was more or less not helping the situation. I was making it worse. So I decided to go back to what was provided, bought Dettol and my own tissue. So cases in the morning when I wake up, I need to use the washroom. I get in there, I take my time with my Dettol in hand and a little bit of water, wipe everywhere I needed to wipe, and sit and free myself.
That's all.
So sometimes we need to take that personal care into cognizance and know that in one way or the other, we have all had our brushes with the law. But what makes the difference is your ability to, even without being arrested, to prompt yourself that what I'm doing, is it good for the collective good of the society? If it is not good, you quickly retrace your steps and do what you need to do to ensure that you contribute to national development.
1 second, too, because I've taken a lot of your time.
Yes, I think it's like we try to punish people who want to do the right thing, but praises those who are doing the wrong thing. Go to our bus terminals, realize that people are in queue, but if you dare to be in the queue, you'll be there till night. Because people come, they find their way into the bus. So at the end of the day, if you want the right thing to be done, if you want to do the right thing, society will punish you.
Deep thoughts there. 0260846539 is the WhatsApp number. Be sure to share with us what your thoughts are, and we will be more than willing to read them here for you. I am very, very, very happy we have had this conversation. It has opened us up to some of the problems we have here in this country, and how we can address these very fundamental concerns that confront us. Very, very intelligent submissions from our panelists here on the morning show. Now, I want us to discuss this former President Wallace's issue a little later. Farmers have exposed the Agric Minister over claims of defeating fall armyworm. With this, I think we spoke about this thing long ago, that the fall armyworm had not been defeated, but for political expediency, the Agric Minister somehow found a bigger voice than all of us to say that we are defeated fall armyworm. Now the reality is dawning on us. My issue really also has got to do with how we politicize everything. And I've consistently, without fail, made the point that there are some sectors of the economy that must not, irrespective of whoever is in power, be politicized. And I describe them as the lungs of the state: education, agriculture, health, energy or power, and a few others. We must not politicize them irrespective, because when we politicize them, no, I get your definition of politics. No,
what is
no, Mr. Eneku, no, listen, listen. Mr. Eneku, this one, it is not your definition of politics.
Yeah, but what is the
partisan politics? Is what I'm referring to. Are over dependent on partisan politics. Partisan description of everything
to assist. You can just say indecent politicization. That's all.
What is indecent?
No, but politics can, some aspects of politicization can be indecent. You know that, you agree with me.
No, and partisanship.
So extreme Japan is it not a political creation?
Yes.
Do you agree with Japan?
I don't.
Is it not indecent?
Is this an indecent?
No. Why indecent means what?
It's politicization.
Let me tell you.
It's corrupt.
Let me tell you something. Japan is
characterized with
Listen, Japan was rationally thought of and deliberately done to inure to the interest of a certain group.
So is that not indecent? Were they not being indecent?
What is decent politics?
Oh, Mr. Eneku.
No, tell me, what is decent politics?
You said that there's nothing wrong with politicization.
I said that politics in its entirety is not decent.
So if you are saying that politics in its entirety is not decent, then you shouldn't have a problem with him saying politicization.
Yeah.
What I'm saying.
So you can take it from that perspective.
What I'm saying is
what I was saying. Everything is politics.
No, I'm not in disagreement with that analysis.
Yes, there can be bad politics.
I am not
decent politics.
I'm not in disagreement with that analogy. The point I'm trying to emphasize here is that it is our deliberate partisanship which is attached to the policy that we practice, which is why most of these issues are not being addressed. For instance, there's a genuine issue regarding our agricultural sector. Farmers started complaining about fall armyworm. The agriculture minister comes and says that we have addressed the issue of fall armyworm, whereas that particular issue still existed. So how do we describe that?
Okay, let me.
Because we want to score political points, we have decided to overlook the issues confronting the people. To say that we have addressed the issue when we have not.
Okay, let me say.
Yes, sir.
There's the problem. Okay. Of fall armyworm.
Yes, sir.
Some people raised it.
Yes, sir.
And then those they raised and who went against them. So that was politics.
Yes, sir.
Then the agric minister came and said, "Oh, we have brought in some medicine. We have resolved it." Those who realized they had not been resolved say, "Oh, that's politics." Of course, both of them are politics, but here the politics is not that it is not true. It is true that it has not been resolved. So when you criticize the method and manner by which it was, they tried to resolve it, is that politics? Or that's not politics? It's all part of politics, and you are supposed to do it. Why? Because it's affecting human beings. It's affecting the farmers. It's affecting people who are producing food for us. So where does politicization come in, and where does impoliticization, if I may use that term, if there's such an English word, comes in? Everything that we do is politics. One. Criticism and defending it are all politics. It is either right or it is wrong. It is either true or it's not true. It's either in somebody's interest and so goes against the larger interest, like in Japan. In Japan is in the interest of a certain cabal. It's not in the interest of those who are sitting on the gold. Do you know something? Do you know that 200-300 years ago, the white man was not even allowed to get to the gold fields? Now, we allow him to go and take the gold from under the ground before it is brought out. And I'm saying everything, all these things are politics, and we are allowed to talk about it. We are allowed to criticize it. when somebody is defending something, let's look in whose interest is that defense for. And so this exposure of the Greek minister has shown that he did not do his work well. It has shown that the Ministry of Agric did not do their work well. The bureaucrats in it, when their boss was talking, they kept quiet.
But what made them not do their work well? Is it not politics? Because you say that criticisms as well as appraisals are elements of politics.
So when they didn't do their work well, that's politics.
Yes.
When somebody criticized, that's also politics.
Yes.
So why do we say politicization of?
Because that's a result of the politicization of it, which you have defined, that made the person fail to address the issues, as it should be addressed.
And he is telling you that you are politicizing it because you are against him. That is why you are raising the issue.
It's not about politicizing. No, but the issue is one. The issue is that there's a concern, which is a fall army web.
Yes.
That concern has to be addressed, and from your perspective, it's politics. The fact that we have to address that is politics.
It's politics.
Okay. Both of us
is politics.
No, both of us agree that we have to address the issue of fall everywhere.
Yes.
Right? Okay. So one person says that I have addressed the issue of fall everywhere, which in fact he hasn't. The other person is pointing out to you that you have failed to address this fundamental issue, which is also politics. But the person who is telling you the truth, even though it's politics, is telling you, is telling you that because you also look at it from a political perspective, in the negative, you fail to address a fundamental problem which affects all of us. So you've not done anything. It's come out to zero.
Weren't we told that the medicine which the chap brought, the minister brought, was ineffective? Some people said it. And he said that he brought the right medicine. If he had brought the right medicine and the right steps had been taken to prevent it reoccurring in the future, it wouldn't be reoccurring.
Yeah, because somebody said that somebody also wanted to take his cut from it.
Fantastic.
So that's the whole point.
Yes,
fantastic. But it could be true
in somebody's interest.
But it could be true.
Exactly. To do it the way he did.
Absolutely.
Which he has been exposed subsequently as not having done it right.
Absolutely.
Isn't it?
Absolutely.
So if I criticize him or I expose him, will you just dismiss it as just politics?
No, I won't.
Or if he says that, oh, he did it, will you dismiss it just as politics, or you look at the reason why he's saying that he has done, the cuts, the inefficiencies, the ineffectiveness of the bureaucracy, the cover-up, etc., etc. So I'm saying that all these things, one, they are politics, and when we are criticizing it or we are defending it, we should look at whose interest it is being done.
Very well, thank you. 0260846539. Doc, let me come to you before I come to Hamza.
Yeah, with the issue of 4 army worm, I think trying to achieve food security is a call for national concern, and under no circumstances would that be over politicized. Now you realize that if we really want to improve upon the local economy, whereby we wanted to achieve food sufficiency and thereby reducing our importation, I think that we really need to give agribusinesses better attention. But in circumstances where you see people trying to politicize the whole process, because trying to achieve food security is a process and not an event. So does the 4 army worms needs visa to travel to Ghana? They can move from any direction at any time. So trying to say that you have overpowered them, I don't think you are doing yourself any service. But then if the structures and policies and programs, provisions that you've made for such a fight has been delivered to the people, then you are equally doing yourself a great service. Now, for you to be able to assess a program or a project very well, then you need to do a physical impact assessment and a social and environmental impact assessment. So at the end of the day, the government rolls out a policy to the farmers. The farmers needs to give you a feedback. You must not be able to conjecture the feedback from farmers. I think that is where the minister have a problem with farmers. Because at the end of the day, the implementation lies on the farmer, not the minister. So the minister now needs to take a feedback from the farmers. So the farmers are saying that no, we sprayed our farms. Probably those 4 armyworms that were on our farms died. But after 3 months, troops also came again, which the minister is not aware. And he might not be interested in knowing the current issues again. He should just be praised because he has solved a problem 3 months ago. So I think that if really we want to make a headway, we should move away from over politicization of issue concerning agribusinesses. It's not going to help us, because there are 2 ways of assessing an economy, whether it's through book value or market value. Theories will not help us, but the market value talks about how an individual, a Ghanaian, feels and the betterment of their livelihood and all others. So we should ask the farmers, this policy and program that we have rolled out, how efficient and effective is it? So at the end of the day, we get a very good feedback. We use it for policy formulation and implementation again.
Okay, thank you. Hamza, it's undeniable that politicians have been described as manipulative, etc., etc. And as Aristotle aptly put it, says, under every stone lurks a politician. And it speaks volumes about who or what politicians are. And politicians are in the business of practicing politics. There's a book called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly of Politics. I've read that book. And it's quite clear that the sort of politics that as described by Mr. Eneku is the one that is in the Oxford Dictionary, which is, how we govern people and things like that. But there's another side of it which Mr. Eneku is deliberately, because he knows, failing to, admit. Truth be told, right, this fall army worm thing was heavily politicized from the perspective of what I'm talking about, not from Mr. Eneku's perspective. Because otherwise we'll never make a headway, right? So, coming back to bite us, for me, defeats the purpose for which we vote for government, for instance. Because we vote for government to address and alleviate possibly the fundamental issues confronting its people. Food security and etc. whatnot. And particularly when this government also trumpeted, its policies, and was very loud and very eloquent in pontificating that some of their greatest achievements were planting for food and jobs under the aegis of the Minister for Agric and things like that. Fall armyworm, our greatest threat to food security, and yet somehow we've not been able to address it. Does not defeat this mantra of planting for food and jobs and how we sought to trumpet it and things like that?
Starting from where you just ended, Kwame. First of all, even planting for food and jobs is not a baby of the New Patriotic Party. Indeed, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama-led administration started the negotiations, sealed the funds of about 126 million Canadian dollars before the Nanado-led government, before Nanado eventually won the 2016 election and was sworn into office on the 7th of January 2017. So what the MPP simply did is the labeling of the program Planting for Food and Jobs. And indeed, in terms of the application of the program, they have decided to give it out to party boys, and fertilizers that were meant to go for free or sometimes have the price to farmers have found their ways. Those fertilizers have suddenly developed wings and have found their ways into homes of party loyalists, where they sell to fertilizer distribution agencies in the various regions. So we must appreciate that in the first place, the Planting for Food and Jobs is not a baby. Apart from the labeling they did on the pickups and the motorbikes that were acquired, nothing beyond policy that actually came to transform agriculture sector in this country. Again, now to the issue of fall armyworms. Going into the brackets of definition in terms of politicization by our senior comrade, I think I'm allowed to say that this government has been engaged in that indecent politicization since they assumed office. Indecent because, you see, we know all parties in one way or the other engage in the political hustle of trying to win political power. But you have one power, you have been given the mandate by the people to govern. And all what you have been engaged in since assumption of office is the indecent way of doing politics through lies and deception, which we must abhor, not just because of our political survival, but because of what we spoke about around this table, the psyche of young generations. Because if through our politics we unconsciously teach those down there how to lie without shame, how to deceive, we are causing more damage to the fiber of this country, the moral fiber of this country, than we are taxed by law and by the power of the thumb to do in terms of advancing progress. Kwame,
Yeah.
the farmer in question is no politician.
Yeah.
In fact, he has been adjudged as a best farmer in his region, in the Ahafo region. He has said that the so-called invasion and successful defeating, or whatever the agri minister referred to, successfully defeating the army cannot be accurate, because they are still having challenges with the issue of army worms. So it is not the work of an NDC parliamentarian or an NDC activist against the sitting Minister of Agriculture. It is those that he has been mandated by law to supervise and assist. A best farmer is on record to have said that they are still having challenges with army worms. And if the policy driver is assuring the whole nation that they have defeated it, that simply means that from now until next year, the government has no place or has no plans of making resources available to confront the army worm invasion, because as far as their policy is concerned, their Minister of Agriculture has told them in clear terms and the whole nation that they have defeated it. There's no need for any budgetary allocations to be made in that regard. That is what it means. And like we said, we simply cannot joke with the agriculture sector of this country. And the man in question didn't only talk about army worms. Indeed, he enumerated a number of challenges that they are having as far as the agriculture sector is concerned. He's spoken about processing centers. He's spoken about pricing for their produce. Why there's a need for government to look at that. And again, we have indicated in our People's Manifesto, and that is why the People's Manifesto is reflective of the aspirations of the people, because we engage them, and it is their view that culminated in the NDC coming out with the People's Manifesto. As a way of resolving the issue of pricing, we have said that the next NDC administration will take pricing seriously.
Okay.
And sit down with our farmers and negotiate and agree on a pricing formula that will better serve them and serve the collective interest of this country as far as agriculture production is concerned. We have also indicated, and you see, it is not just those engaged in maize production, maize farming, that are having this issue of farming. If you look at the Eastern Corridor stretch, they more or less deal more with yam,
Okay.
Rice.
and rice. They are also battling with issues of pricing and markets for their produce, and largely also because
buffer stock was addressing that issue.
But you see, if you look at the pricing is still a problem.
Okay.
We gave them better prices than this government is giving them.
So I remember I had a conversation with Hanan, and
I am telling you that we give them better pricing. That you see, that is why farmers cannot just readily get up and go and sell their produce to buffer stock straight. What these people have done simply is they have recruited party agents who act as liaison officers between the buffer stock company and the farmers. So when the farmers go to the buffer stock to sell to them directly, they are unwilling to buy unless you go through these agents. So these agents undercut the farmers, then come and supply to buffer stock company, and through that they make huge profits at the expense of the farmer who spent several months on the field.
Expand on that because I do.
His Excellency John Dramani Mahama.
I do recall that what Hanan told me was there was an initial issue of pricing, and that is what they have come to address. So I'm surprised that you are.
They are addressing it just like the NDC people.
I'll let you finish
with a market mechanism.
Okay. The pricing mechanism.
No, the pricing itself is to be determined by the market. By the market,
obviously. Yeah. So yeah, I get what you mean.
No. We appreciate. That was the reason why, in the first place, we came out with the National Buffer Stock Company under His Excellency President Mills. You see, we appreciate that there is the need for you to provide ready market for the farmers. Again, apart from the ready markets, they must have good pricing, because even if you give them good prices and they have no place to supply, they still will be in challenges. So there's a need for a government to create that market for them in the first place through the National Buffer Stock Company, then give them better pricing. And you see, your better pricing will not be determined by the market forces, because that is government's way of re-injecting capital into agricultural output. So for government, it's an investment.
I think Hanan said that.
For government, it's an investment. That is why we were not allowing the market forces to determine prices in terms of our engagement.
Because they said that the market.
But what I'm simply telling you is that His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama has said that the pricing can still be made better. In the sense that if we are favored with power, God willing, after the 7th of December, we are going to relook at the operations of National Buffer Stock. These agents who undercut farmers, and National Buffer Stock is a bit reluctant in terms of engaging farmers directly to buy the produce from them, we would find a way of getting them off the system and creating a system where the farmers can deal directly with National Buffer Stock and sell the produce to them at the identified rates that government will set, so that when they sell, they get enough revenue to go back and invest again in terms of agricultural output.
But doesn't matter who the intermediaries are, because if the price has been set by government, then and the farmers are aware that is how much government is buying the
product. But that is why
that doesn't matter whether they are third parties.
That is why. But you agree with me that a chunk of our farmers in this country are largely rural, and most of them too clearly uneducated.
I'm a farmer.
Yes, but I'm saying a chunk. I am a farmer too. I'm a farmer too. You get a point. I said a chunk of them are largely rural and uneducated too. Trust me, if they know that they have no access of selling it, even a bag of maize at 150 Ghana cedis to National Buffer Stock, and there's someone who is with them and can offer them 120 Ghana cedis and take it back and go and sell to Buffer Stock at 150, they will readily let go, because if they don't sell to that person, there is no mechanism in place for them to go and deal with National Buffer Stock directly.
Okay, right, that makes sense.
Yeah. So that is why we are saying that we look at it. And apart from that, quickly,
and conclude on that.
We have said that His Excellency John Dramani Mahama would ensure that we look at opening up processing centers in viable regions and districts where agricultural production seems to be booming. So if we take the Eastern Corridor, we are making a pledge that we will look at a yam processing factory. So even outside the farming season, the produce from yam can still be processed like we do with meat fufu and stuff like that, and engage the farmers, their wives and kids throughout outside the rainy season.
Fix our roots for us first.
So no, we would do that. That's why we have the Eastern Corridor. Since we left office, these people have abandoned.
Fix our roots for us.
And we have indicated again, Kwame, the $10 billion infrastructure push, the big push. We have identified. No, we are going to go that way. We're going to come to the election. And the Eastern Corridor, our final topic has to do with the election. So I'll give you a opportunity.
Let me.
And the Eastern Corridor will feature prominently. And finally, if you guys don't finally, Eastern Corridor will finally, let me laugh. You stay in the finally. When you mean 2020, because you people will allow me to make my point. When you mean 2020, you don't fix that Eastern Corridor. It's because of you. Kwame, see.
Yes.
Conclusively, the farmer in question spoke about access to processing centers. The farmer in question spoke about how to handle armyworms. The farmer in question spoke about good pricing for their produce. And I have told you that a casual look of the NDC manifesto has responded extensively to all these concerns of the best farmer from the Afro region. And we are saying that they should hold us by that document. And that upon assumption of office, the National Democratic Congress government, led by His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, with a track record of delivering on promises, will ensure that we live up to the expectation of the Ghanaian.
You should learn by now.
No, he's landed. He's landed. Thank you.
Where are you? Thank you for finally landed. NDC came for you. Let us also do some CPP. Yes. We in agriculture are offering a guaranteed price for food crops, like a guaranteed price is given to cocoa farmers. Now, cocoa farmers know a guaranteed price.
Yeah, they know.
Whether they are in the rural areas or not, they know. So if you go and you give them any other price other than the producer price given to them, they are not going to sell their cocoa to you.
But he spoke about access.
Yes.
The issue is about access.
The truth
not
about the matter
pricing.
is that when you talk of the buffer stock, before the buffer stock, in the past we have food distribution corporation. So it's not a new thing. And I'm saying that that is operated on the market mechanism. When you talk of a guaranteed price, that is a regulated market. You understand? And we are also going to have marketing boards like we used to have. The CPP is going to make sure that the marketing board concept is reintroduced, apart from providing mechanization centers which will be accessible by all farmers at a cheaper unit cost. Because you will agree with me that in the north, those who go and buy tractors, most of their monies go into the servicing of those tractors instead of being plowed back into the farming. So government should provide those kind of centers. But the guaranteed
John you are late.
No.
The CPP is late.
No, the CPP is not late. If you know the Ministry of Agriculture, the Mechanization Center, which was introduced probably when you were a kid. Yeah, in the 60s, it had been there. So that not that much. So that one, you are not late. We started it.
Now I'm talking about the Greek listing. So where's the mechanization? Your mechanization center?
Our mechanization centers were destroyed by subsequent governments, including the PNDC and the NDC. Including the PNDC and the NDC. The processing centers at Wenchi, that's tomato factory, fruit factory, and all those kind of things, Zwalungu, meat factory, etc., were all destroyed by Jerry Rawlings and his friends in the PNDC. In the decade that destroyed our country in the 80s. You understand? So don't talk as if you people, Eureka, you have found something new which you are bringing to us. We know of it already. And it's only experienced party who introduced it in the beginning who can properly do it. And that is why I'm saying that the CPP is going to bring the marketing boards, is going to bring the guaranteed market, is going to reinvest and reactivate all those agri-related processing centers so that it helps our farmers get a market.
Time is up. Finally, I'm not going to discuss George Rawlings' issue.
You should have allowed us to extend our condolences.
No, exactly.
You extend it later.
And also throw some jabs.
You
can't throw jabs.
You started talking about PNDC. So we know what you can do.
But Kwame, I am duty bound. I am duty bound to extend my condolences to the family of His Excellency, the late President.
No, we are also duty bound.
And of course, to the National Democratic Congress, the party he founded.
Okay.
And to assure that our greatest task going into this election as a party that he founded is to ensure that we live up to the dictates of the June 4th revolution, probity, accountability, and what
social justice.
Senior comrade loves so much, social justice in our society.
You want to wish him well?
And yes, we have always said,
the dead person.
Kwame, we have always said that, our founder, we have always said that one vital lesson he left us with is positive defiance. Positive defiance. And I am glad to say, even during his lifetime, at a stage in our political discourse where the NDC as a party even needed to exhibit that positive defiance against his person, we did it without fear or favor. It did not in any way suggest that we have no respect for our founder or we didn't love our founder. We were simply exhibiting attributes he taught us that, unfortunately, in manifesting it in terms of our engagements with him, onlookers felt that it was our way of disrespecting his legacy as a former president. But I can assure you that the National Democratic Congress will ensure that we live up.
My time is up.
Absolutely. As a human being, I will extend my condolences and sympathies to the family.
And as a citizen.
Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings. I think, of course, he lived his life, he ruled this country. But when we are eulogizing him, we should speak the truth. We shouldn't brush things over and create a make-believe Anansi story as if all that he did was correct. The 1982, right out to 1992, and subsequently, the economic recovery program, the structural adjustment program, the laying off of thousands of people, the destruction of our industrial base and of our economy, and the making of our economy subservient to the neoliberal dictate of the West is a fact. It can't be wished away. It was part of him. He believed in the market, and the market failed terribly.
Yes.
And that's why there's joblessness, that's why there's unemployment, that's why there's industrial waste. That is why we are importing exercise books instead of making sure Ghana Publishing Corporation is made useful. But of course, that doesn't take away the fact that he ruled this country, and that doesn't take away the fact that we sympathize with his family for the dead. As far as probity and accountability are concerned, I have my doubts, especially if we are to look at the DIC, the Divestiture Implementation Committee, and how a lot of our factories, and how a lot of our factories were simply handed over to cronies. And these are facts, and we shouldn't burnish any part of our history. But we still extend our condolences to his party and this.
Rawlings wasn't perfect. Nkrumah wasn't perfect. I hope he agrees with that. Was Nkrumah perfect?
But somebody has 6 years, somebody has 19 years.
Kwame, get him to answer that question before. Was Nkrumah perfect?
But Nkrumah has 6 years.
Was Nkrumah perfect?
Nkrumah has 6 years.
Was Nkrumah perfect?
Perfect in which sense?
Rawlings, did you ask perfect in which sense?
Perfect in social justice.
In governance, as a leader, was he perfect?
In governance, yes, he was. He was even very kind. Those people who were bombing people, destroying people's lives, killing them, assassinating them.
I believe in the Nkrumah dream, but I don't think that Nkrumah was
just kept them in protective custody.
The
only person,
my choice of leaders, the
only person he executed.
I don't think that
the only person he executed was Ametewe. He wasn't throwing people off the helicopters into the sea.
Even Ametewe, he didn't execute.
I mean, the court.
The matter went to court.
Yes.
That's the. If you look at that.
No, I'm not saying that Nkrumah was bad. It's Kwame, get it. I just want him to appreciate that as political leaders of this country, from Nkrumah to Jerry, you simply cannot say that Nkrumah was a perfect leader. I'm an adherent of the Nkrumah ideology. But I can assure you that if you touch me today to point out cases or policies of Nkrumah that I didn't feel comfortable with growing up reading, I can count a number of them.
Tell us.
One, I am clearly a Democrat, and I was not in any way comfortable with the Preventive Detention Act.
The PDA.
I believe in the freedom of expression, especially in any democratic culture. I will defend Nkrumah to high heavens. But I have strong reservations in any attempt of any government or president that seeks to clamp down dissent to his rule.
Go and
with
throw a bomb now and see where
with such that even if bombs are being thrown, there must be a way. And then Kuma, the issue was not just the PDA.
But you're not being fair.
There are laws. Wait.
What brought
But PDA was not a law.
I'm coming. Kwame. I'm not saying it didn't go to.
You know who assented to?
When they went challenging England. Oh, will I make a point?
The Queen of England.
I am saying that.
But they've taken it from.
I am saying that Kwame. I am saying that the PDA is a policy that I didn't agree with. That's one. Two, I equally had my reservations in any attempt that wanted to make this country a one-party state.
Okay. I think my time is
I'm coming. I can go on and on. But you agree with me that you equally have reservations in the manner the PDA was implemented.
Hold on.
That gave so much power to an individual person at the helm of affairs.
No, but still, every president has power. No.
You see the PDA. You have not read extensively on the PDA. And I've read the argument on the PDA. Exactly. And so you think that the only very lie on the president to determine who was the national threat.
If you read React 2 and
so today Nana can sit down in his house and determine who your national threat is.
What? Wasn't it?
And then
your member of parliament. Hold on.
It is not possible.
Your member of parliament for where? The North there. Wasn't he arrested for attempted coup d'etat or whatever?
Who?
That your police officer. What's his name?
Because Nanado, the president, considered him a threat and they threw him into cell without trial.
What are you talking about?
So they threw him into without.
Are you saying that PDA nobody went for trial?
Where did they go for trials?
But why did React
Action, he seated here. Where did they go for trials?
How did React?
It was because React went to challenge the action. That was not. You have no point. No. They were already in prison. PDA was challenging one, but the PDA was a law. So PDA was to challenge that. Law.
No, but you see, you can. But it's a law. The fact that you made bad laws. Why? The fact that you made bad laws does not mean it's not a law. And if somebody has seen to its implementation, it's like hold on. It's like when former President Mahama, together with some of the ministers, decided to write sign a petition that saw the removal of Akugan and a few others from. What did people not say? They said yes, you had every right to execute that law, but you shouldn't have done that. So that's one there. Don't compare me. No. That's what
I'm not saying according to the law it's legal, but I have reservations.
You have made your point.
And I am telling you that to the extent that the presidency of the land had that unilateral power to determine who will be thrown into prison, largely because of his judgment of what constitutes a national threat. I had a problem with it because what it meant is that I couldn't be chasing a girl with a president. And decides to go me to No, you're only shouting. You see, you're only shouting. You are not listening. The
it was not in the judgment of the president.
The minister, I think the minister of justice at the time was somebody like that.
No. The minister would recommend and the president not allow that judgment.
But the
president is point and he doesn't allow.
That's the last straw for you. The last straw for you.
No, but let me make a correction. The PDA was in 1958. It was assented to by the Queen of England.
Of course.
It was passed by Parliament. It was passed by Parliament. It was no different from security laws in India. Oh, you spoke. We listened. Why? I mean, you claim that the PDA was being. Go ahead. You understand? It's no different from the Patriots Act in America against the terrorists, and there were indeed terrorists in this country. One. Number two, let's just take a breather and look at it. Did Nkrumah arrest people just arbitrarily?
Okay, this is the conversation we can have later. I think my time is up.
And you talk of one party state.
My brother,
when people are throwing bombs and running away,
so justified one party
I think by and large we have really missed.
Your multi-party state is
ex-President Rawlings. Ex-President Rawlings has really done well. some research, African research, even shows that he has done creditably well, and some analysts are even putting him ahead of Kwame Nkrumah. Yes, and yes.
19 years is not a joke, though.
Yes, and you realize that if your family have a family land, and somebody fought other litigants to be able to have that land back to the family, lays the foundation, and for somebody, a leader, to come later to build houses, factories on it, you think that the one who built the factories and houses has done better, but actually the one who claimed that land has really done better.
All right.
So at the end of the day, laying the foundation for this country has been the topmost priority of Rawlings.
Okay.
And the peace and stability we are enjoying today were as a result of most of his efforts. We have been able to go into democratic governance and all others.
People for saying that they should enjoy this as a result of it.
Yes.
For somebody who did not believe in multi-party democracy, that's that's a very serious issue.
Yes.
But let's for somebody who did not believe in multi-party democracy, that's a very serious
but at the end of the day, he still ushered us. Whether he believes or not, he allowed it to happen.
He didn't allow it. He was supposed to. He didn't allow it.
He could still use force.
The legacy of His Excellency.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
But as far as this four Republican stability is concerned,
no doubt.
As far as this four Republican stability
no doubt at all. No doubt.
We simply cannot help but to give that glory
absolutely
to His Excellency.
No doubt at all. No doubt. Yes.
Democratic stability. We have it. Nkrumah couldn't give us that. Nkrumah couldn't give us that.
Guys, Mr.
Polytechnics across the country. I think these are very good legacies. And coupled with the Vision 2020, unfortunately, he died in 2020. That has been his biggest vision. Seeing Ghana being a middle income country by the year 2020. And he died 2020.
And rural electrification in the north.
Yes.
So if we are not created, I'm
listening. So indeed, in the Fourth Republic and even from the Third, he has really played a major role. And most African countries are seeing Rawlings as African hero. And for that matter, we need to look beyond partisan nature that we run our politics in Ghana and really see him as a hero for Africa.
All right, thank you.
And he will be fully remembered and celebrated as well.
Thank you. Dr. Walano Mensah there, thank you very much for your time today. Hamza Suhini, thank you very much for your time. Mr. Justice or Comrade Justice Heneku, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for watching today's edition of Good Morning Africa. It's been very hot here in the studios of Pan African Television. We're still learning. We're in the process of learning, and we'll always learn. My name is Kwame Owusu, so I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Do have a very pleasant day. Bye-bye.